Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about the Dungeon Master, and I want to talk about the new term, the Dragon Master. Okay, so I want to thank you for your patience because, first of all, if you've been here for a while, you know I use language. I believe that every Dungeon Master and every Dungeons and Dragons player is the arbiter for American English language more than anyone on the planet. We own it, we define it, right? Why? Because Gary set a filter for the most charismatic, confident, intelligent people in the world. Those are Dungeon Masters and those are Dungeons and Dragons players. And so we own the American language. We own American English. We define it, okay? And that means, and if you've been here, you know I use a lot of terms, a lot of neologisms. I redefine language all the time. And the reason why is I have the right, I have the authority to do it, given to me by Gary Gygax, in my humble opinion. All right, and so do you, right? If you honor his legacy, okay? Like Mackenzie Armis does, like Jeremy Crawford does, like Chris Perkins does, right? Okay, all right, let's dig in. So what's interesting is I have been pushing the term dungeon performer. I despise the term Dungeons and Dragons player. It is completely wrong. It is dangerous, in my humble opinion. It's dangerous language because it doesn't say what is the truth, in my humble opinion. So, first of all, I don't believe anybody plays Dungeons. Well, actually, first of all, no one on this channel and no one who honors the legacy of Gary Gygax ever plays Dungeons and Dragons. We do Dungeons and Dragons. We participate in Dungeons and Dragons. We experience Dungeons and Dragons. Play is a disgusting word that does not belong anywhere near Dungeons and Dragons, in my humble opinion. It's too small. It's a container that bursts when you believe what I believe about Dungeons and Dragons. When you put your Dungeons and Dragons participation into the word play, it bursts it open and just shreds it. It doesn't fit. Okay. All right. I'm using Dungeons and Dragons to cut my deficiencies in half. I'm not using Dungeons and Dragons to cut goblins in half. If you're cutting goblins in half with Dungeons and Dragons, you are playing Dungeons and Dragons, and you're a fool, in my opinion. You're ignoring the obvious, right? And you're ignoring the mounting evidence that Dungeons and Dragons was never a game, is not a game today, and never will be a game, in my humble opinion. Okay. All right. So I've been pushing forward this term, dungeon performer, and I've actually made some. I think I've made some progress in getting people to pick this up. And the reason why is, dungeon master, dungeon performer, right? The dungeon performer is the person who's acting out the life of the player character, right? I want to switch it. Sorry. So I know this is, and it's bad because I've got a lot of momentum on dungeon performer, but I was really thinking about it and it's wrong, right? Dungeon master, it's the correct title. It is the dominant title. It is the preferred title. It is the epic title. It is the crown title. It matters. Dungeon master, people know what it is. And when you put on the dungeon master crown, your life changes forever. Okay. What should we call Dungeons and Dragons players? Sorry for using that term. We just got to get the new language. Dragon master, dragon master, dragon master. Why? Well, it makes sense. It makes sense. And there's going to be some pushback on this. I get that. Dragon Master is the correct term for a Dungeons and Dragons player. Dungeon Performer, I think, was a good effort, and it was my attempt to fix the language around players, right? And I got it wrong the first time, and I'm sorry for taking you on that journey that did not end. It was a bridge to nowhere, but now I think we're on a bridge that will connect to the other side, okay? And that is Dragon Master. So why should we call Dungeons and Dragons players Dragon Masters? Because it does everything we need it to do. Okay, so Dungeon Master, everybody knows what that is. Dragon Master, the Dungeons and Dragons players. Each player is a Dragon Master. Okay, why say Dragon Master? Well, one, the biggest thing is it immediately completes the cycle. You need dungeons to have Dungeons and Dragons. You need dragons to have Dungeons and Dragons. Right? So, and I don't like that idea that we were performing, right? I think as players are doing more than that. They're doing more than performing. They're doing they're doing exactly what the Dungeon Master does. They're building the world through the heart of that world. Every player is the heart of Dungeons and Dragons, of a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And I actually think that every Dungeons and Dragons campaign has 5 hearts, each of a different color. All right, what are those colors? I bet you can guess it. Red, white, and blue, black and green. Right, the color of the dragons themselves, the chromatics. Right, and I think really optimally you have 5 players at the table, and each one of them is doing a different thing based on if they're the red dragon, if they're the red dragon, the white dragon, the blue dragon, the black dragon, the green dragon. They have different duties, right? But it completes the cycle of Dungeons and Dragons. There's the Dungeon Master, there's the Dragon Master, and you need Dungeons and Dragons to have Dungeons and Dragons. It makes sense, right? The other thing is Dungeon Master, Dragon Master, right? It accurately captures that they're equal. They're both masters. Both masters. The Dungeon Master is not above the Dungeons and Dragons player, because nothing the Dungeon Master does has any meaning until the player comes in and changes it. And that means if you wrote all your stuff in your notebook and everything you planned actually happened, you're not a real Dungeon Master. You're just a failed author, right? The last is you have the dungeon and you have the dragon, and it is an accurate description of what's happening. You have the Dungeon Master is running the world, right? The Dragon Master is running the heart. They are running one color of the heart of that campaign, right? And the heart is red, white, and blue, black, and green, right? And you have a red dragon, a white dragon, a blue dragon, a black dragon, and a green dragon at the table. And they are doing different things, and they have different duties and different responsibilities. Dungeon Performer, I'm retiring that language. From now on, Dungeon Master means Dungeon Master. Dragon Master means Dungeons and Dragons player. Again, I appreciate your patience with Dungeon Performer. I know you heard that a lot, but the correct term is Dragon Master. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.